Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Loving obeisances unto the Supreme Being Vasudeva, who is everything there is. Janmadhyasya yato anvayaditaratascha artheshu abhignaswarat tene brahmahridaya adikavaye muhyanti yatsurayah tejo vari mridam yatha vinimayo yatra trisargo mrisha dhamna swena sada nirastakuhakam satyam param dhimahi. We meditate upon the transcendent absolute being from whom springs forth this universe. He is present in all that exists and yet distinct from everything. He is fully conscious and totally independent. He revealed to the first seer Brahma the import of Vedic wisdom. The material creation, made of threefold gunas, appears in him as though real, like water in a mirage. Being eternally self effulgent, he is ever free of the illusion Maya of the material world. We meditate upon him, the Supreme Being. Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam shukamukad amrita drava sanyutam pibata bhagavatam rasamalayam muhuraho rasika bhuvi bhavukaha. O devotees who relish a taste for divine love, Bhagavatam is the fully ripened fruit of the wish-shielding tree of Vedas, flowing as immortal nectar from Shuka Brahma Rishi. Go on drinking the sweet nectar day after day. So we are now entering the 25th chapter of the 4th Skandha of Bhagavatam. We saw the beautiful prayer taught by Lord Shiva to the Prachetas, who are the sons of the king Prachinabarhi. Now we continue the 25th chapter. So, having instructed the Prachetas, Lord Shiva disappeared right there. So we saw a beautiful lake by which Lord Shiva had suddenly manifested and given the beautiful prayer which was then chanted by the Prachetas. So Lord Shiva disappeared after giving the prayer, and the Prachetas then, to engage in austerities, decided to just be there by that lake where they got the vision of Shiva, and they took the prayer taught by Shiva to heart, and they engaged in chanting those prayers and practicing austerities for a long time. Meanwhile, we shift the scene back to the capital where the king Prachinabarhi is there, and he is someone we already saw is very attached to rituals. He engages in a lot of rituals and sacrifices and so on. So the great sage Narada comes to him to teach him, and so he visits upon the kingdom, reaches the capital, and meets with the king Prachinabarhi, the father of the Prachetas, and he right away admonishes the king. He says, "O king, you seem to be always caught up in rituals. What good do you seek out of these rituals? Because true welfare is only in recognizing the supreme happiness of one's own being, and such true happiness cannot be attained by engaging in rituals and karmas." So, here, first of all, we see how Narada comes out of his compassion to teach this king who is caught in rituals and caught in karmas. And also, he right away goes directly to the matter instead of asking about general well being and so on, because he has come there directly to teach the king. So, Narada is referred to as Narada Adhyatma Tattvajnaha Kripaluhu. He is called Adhyatma Tattvajnaha, means one who knows the nature of truth. And Kripaluhu means one who is compassionate. So these are always going hand in hand. The one who has realized the truth is also compassionate, because having realized the truth of the Spirit, one recognizes that all there is the one Supreme Being, and there are no separate individuals, and therefore everything is seen as the expression of the Supreme Being, and therefore there is a natural outpouring of love and compassion for all beings of the universe, and therefore compassion manifests naturally upon realization of the Supreme Spirit, and that's why Narada is called as both realized and compassionate. And this Narada right away asks Prachinabarhi, why do you engage in rituals? Because he has come here to teach him. This is how also the first instruction of Upadesha Saram says, Karma kim param, karma tajjadam. All the activities are not supreme. There is a school of Vedas called Karma Kanda, which gives high importance to rituals and karmas, and they always thought rituals are supreme, and they engaged in rituals, many rishis and so on. And that's the same mode in which this king Prachina Barhi is also engaged. He is engaged in various karmas which promise different fruits. There are various aspects of Vedas where it is promised that one who engages in this particular sacrifice gets this fruit, and another sacrifice for a different fruit, and the fruits can be either worldly enjoyments or heavenly enjoyments and so on. So this is why Vedas can be quite bewildering, because Vedas have all kinds of knowledge. Veda literally means knowledge, and so it has knowledge from the most mundane to the most profound, sublime. So that portion of Vedas, which is the sublime wisdom, is called Vedanta, the highest wisdom. But other than this, there is also many practical aspects of knowledge, such as language, grammar, and poetry, and so on. And also, there is this aspect of Vedas called Karma Kanda, which is all about the science of rituals. And while they are not in any way wrong, Vedas, of course, in everything found in the Vedas are true at various levels of truth. So, at a certain level, cause and effect, of course, has truth, and therefore, the Vedic rishis found different causes for different effects which are beyond what the senses can perceive. So, there are many mystical cause and effect relationships they uncovered, and they therefore presented them as rituals. And yet, these rituals, while they are having their own effects, if one is caught in them, if one is constantly chasing them, then one is caught in the sense of doership and the enjoyership. And therefore, these rituals are only for a lower grade of understanding, and they are meant to be transcended. In other words, instead of engaging in rituals and activities of all kinds without any regulation, Vedas give regulated activities in the form of rituals, so that one can engage one's sense of doership and enjoyership in a regulated way through these rituals, through these karmas. But the very purpose of regulating is to purify the intellect and the mind, so that one at some point, just as we see here, gets the grace of the true Guru like Narada, who says, enough with the rituals. Now you have to, with your purified mind, go beyond the rituals to the supreme realization that you are neither the doer nor the enjoyer, and all there is the supreme being. So, this is the essence of the gradation within the Vedas and the need to transcend the rituals to the supreme wisdom. So, that's what is going to be the teaching of Narada. So Narada therefore asks directly, why do you engage in these rituals, or in these only resulting in continuation of suffering? They will not result in cessation of suffering. So the king, in fact, recognizes his folly. He is first of all very pleased and gratified to be visited by the great Narada. And so he says, I do not know the supreme good. My mind is distracted constantly by rituals. Therefore, please impart to me the pure wisdom by which I can transcend these rituals, transcend karma. Because, as he says, stuck in the life of a householder, it is very easy to get caught in motives of interest. The motives being, I have to protect my family, increase the wealth, uh, gain more property, gain power, all kinds of human pursuits. And then when one finds that there are various rituals through which one can attain these goals, then the mind is distracted by all these rituals, and therefore the one who gets caught in these wanders from desire to desire. So that's what the king says, that's what I'm caught in, I recognize it, so please help me. So Narada then starts his discourse in a very beautiful discourse. He says, first of all, you have to recognize that when you engage in rituals, you are harming a lot of living beings, especially in sacrifices which involve animals being sacrificed, which was done in many places, and even now it's done in many parts. Then these sacrifices with animals being sacrificed results in a lot of violence, which in turn accrues actually bad karma. So there is that. But more importantly, the whole attachment to rituals and to desires coming out of such rituals is only rooted in ignorance. So therefore, Narada says, I am going to tell you an old story, a legend. Listen carefully to this story. So now Narada begins the story of Puranjana. So the story of Puranjana is a very beautiful story which is extremely symbolic. So let's listen carefully. The symbolism of the story is revealed only after the entire story is completed in a couple of chapters. So we have to listen carefully to recognize, if possible, the symbolism in the story, which will be revealed much later in great detail. So that there was a king rather called Puranjana, and he had a friend called Avijñata. So these words contain the clue to the symbolism. So word Puranjana means one who rules a city, and his friend's name is Avijñata, means one who cannot be known. Jnana means knowledge, so Avijñata means the one who cannot be known, unknown. So the person, the king, is the one who rules the city, Puranjana, and his friend is the unknown or unknowable, Avijñata, because his activities are unknowable. Now this king is roaming around the globe looking for a suitable place, because he's a great king, but he is not satisfied with any place as his city of dwelling. So he goes around looking here and there all over the earth, but he is not finding a suitable place. He finds so many cities to inhabit, and every single city he finds is not suitable for the enjoyments of what he desires to accomplish. Finally, he comes to the southern edge of the Himalayas, and there in Bharatvarsha, in Bharat, he finds a city with 9 gates. So this city is also symbolic. Again, one can pay close attention and later it will be revealed. So this king finds a city with 9 gates, and the city of 9 gates exhibits all the hallmarks of a great city. It has beautiful defensive wall, it has moats around it, it has arched gateways, all its houses are having gold and silver and so on, and it has beautiful mansions paved with various pearls and crystals and different gems, and it has got various assembly halls, and it is got various crossroads and gambling houses and marketplaces and all the rest. It is essentially looking like Bhagavati. Bhagavati means a place of enjoyment, supreme enjoyment. So the king, who has a friend, a true friend who is unknowable, Avijñata, he is separate from the friend, and he is roaming around looking for a city to maximize his enjoyment, and he finds this city, which is Bhogavati, the place of highest enjoyment, and he finds it to be extremely suitable for having maximum enjoyment. Now, in the city, he finds a park on the outskirts of the city. There is a beautiful park with a lot of trees and creepers and lakes and beautiful ponds and flowers and gentle breeze blowing, very cool. There is waterfalls there, cascades, and there are different types of flowers blooming. It's a very beautiful looking park on the outskirts of the city, and there are also various animals found, but none of them are violent. They are all very peaceful, and they are all engaging in various plays without causing any violence. And there in that city he finds a in that park rather, on the outskirts of the city, he finds a beautiful woman. So there is a beautiful woman who has arrived there by chance, and she has 10 attendants. So again, everything here is symbolic. So the story itself is very engaging, but if one can pay attention, perhaps the symbolism will be revealed, but later it will be fully explained. So the lady has 10 attendants. Now, and on top of that, she has 11th god who is a serpent. It's a five-hooded serpent. So she has 10 attendants and then a five-hooded serpent bodyguard, which is the 11th attendant. She is a young woman, very beautiful, and she's looking for a husband, looking for a consort. She is very pretty with beautiful features, very symmetric and perfect complexion and beautiful walk and very symmetric and all the rest. And therefore, by seeing her, this Puranjana is, of course, completely blown away. He is pierced by her glances. It is as if the arrow of love has struck him, and therefore, with her eyes looking at him and her eyebrows looking at him and all her glances and so on, he is completely infatuated. And so he asks her, "Oh, pretty lady, who are you? Whose daughter are you? And tell me, what are you doing in this outskirts of the city? And who are these 10 attendants?" And then I also see this 11th attendant, looks like a very great serpent there guarding you. Who are these 11 attendants? I also see many young women around you. Who are all of this? And then he asks, "Are you by any chance either Parvati?" Because she looks so divine. So he asks, "Are you either Parvati, the consort of Shiva, or Saraswati, or Rama, that is Lakshmi herself? Because you seem to be so divine looking, and you seem to be looking for your consort perhaps, but then he says you are none of them, because I see that your feet are touching the ground." So one quality which is said to be of divine beings is that they don't touch their feet on the ground. They are found to be floating and without the feet actually touching the ground. So here he says, "Since I see that your feet are touching the ground, you are not either Parvati or Saraswati or Lakshmi. Therefore, you can be my consort. I would like to enter this city. I just came here and I would like to enter this with you as my consort, because I am totally in love with you." So he is completely infatuated. So he says that by your beauty and your loving smiles, I have been completely bowled over. So please show me your face and accept my proposal. And then, listening to this pretty girl, she replies and she tells the king Puranjana, she says, "I am not aware of either my father." So because he asks, "Who are you? Who's your father?" So she says, "I am not aware of my father or mother. Neither do I care to know of your father or mother. All I care for is to enjoy in the present moment." So this is the lady. So again, she's got, as we said, 10 attendants and a bodyguard who's got five hoods, and she's very beautiful. And so she is again symbolizing something that we will see later. And there are clues right here, because she says, "I only care for enjoying the present moment, and all these men and women are my companions, and whenever I sleep, this serpent, he keeps awake and guards me, and therefore I am protected by all of them. So I am happy to be with you, and I can get you all the sensuous pleasures that you long to obtain. We can together occupy this city." So the city where they are, the outskirts of the city, is where they met. So she says, "This city with 9 gates, let's enter this city. I will procure for you, or I will provide you all the sensuous pleasures that you wish to obtain, and we can live here and enjoy for 100 years sensuous pleasures that will be made available by me, because I'll be very happy to engage in sensuous pleasures and live in this city of 9 gates." And then she also says, of course, this is the great joy of living as a householder, because then we can enjoy all the worldly riches and sense gratification, having children and eating great food and having fame and all the rest, whereas the recluses do not know any of this. So this lady who is so beautiful and who is so attractive and who has completely infatuated this king, she now says that let's enjoy entering the city of nine gates. And not only that, this enjoyment is the ultimate, because the recluses, those who are renunciates, they do not know this enjoyment, they miss it out. So we see this kind of attitude expressed by many who are caught in material pleasures, and that's what is voiced by this woman. So she says, therefore, the life of living together as man and woman and enjoying sensuous pleasures is the highest way of living. So let's go and enter this city and live in great pleasure. So this is what she says. And listening to this, the king is completely lost his sense. He has been infatuated completely, and therefore they become a couple right then and there. They don't wait for anything in that park. They make their marriage official, and then they enter the city, and there they go on to rejoice for 100 years. And there it is said that this king enjoyed in that city for a long time. And the city is described now. The city has 9 gates, as we saw. 7 gates are on the upper portion, though. So the city is not a flat city, it's more of a city, we can say, of different levels. So the upper portion of the city has 7 of those gates, and 2 of the gates are in the lower portion. And not only that, the upper portion of the city's 7 gates, 5 of them are facing east. So again, there is symbolism here. It's quite interesting. One can perhaps, with great attention, figure out what this city is and what these gates are. But in any case, let's wait for Narada to explain all that later. But right now, Narada says this city has 5 gates on the 7 gates on the upper side, as we said, and out of them, 5 of them are on the east side. They face the east. One is facing north, one is facing south. So those are the 7 gates which are on the upper portion. So the upper portion's 7 gates, again, 5 face the eastern direction, one faces south, one faces north. And then the 2 of the lower gates are facing west. So there are gates facing all directions. And as we see, the lower gates, the 2 of them are facing the western direction. Now coming to the eastern gates, the 5 eastern gates, out of that, the 2 eastern gates are at the exact same level. They are called Kadyota and Avirmukhi. These are again names for the gates. And through these gates, Puranjana goes with a particular friend called Dyuman and enjoys different uh, aspects in a land called Vibhrajita. And then there are 2 more in the east. So there is 5 total, as we said. 2 are at the topmost, which are at the same level. And below them is another 2 adjacent to each other. And they are called Nalini and Nalini. And Nalini and Nalini, these 2 gates are adjacent to each other. And there, with a friend called Avadhuta, he goes to a territory called Saurabha, where he enjoys whenever he goes to that territory, Saurabha. And the 5th gate is below those 2 as well, which is called as Mukhya. And there he has 2 friends, Rasagnya and Vipana. And with 2 friends, Rasagnya and Vipana, he goes to 2 different lands, Apana and Bahudana. So these names we don't have to remember, but what we have to see is the 5 gates on the upper portion of the city are arranged again as 2 at the topmost at the same level. through which he goes and enjoys a particular land. Then two more below that, which are adjacent to each other, through which he goes and enjoys a different land. And then one, the fifth one below that, through which he goes to two different lands and enjoys them. So these are the five gates facing the east. Then there is one gate facing the south and one gate facing the north, as we said. Both these gates, he goes with another friend called Shrutadhara, the same friend, for both the northern and the southern gate, and he goes to the land of Panchala, the same land, the northern portion and the southern portion of this land called Panchala. And then so this completes the seven gates at the top level. And then at the lower altitude, the lower level of the city, there are two gates. One is called Asuri and the other is called Nirti. And this Asuri gate he uses with a friend called Durmada to go to a territory called Gramaka. And Nirti is a gate he goes with a friend called Lubdhaka to a territory called Vaishasa. So again, we don't have to remember these names, but what is important is there are two gates at the lower level which are both facing west. And these west facing gates, he has two different friends, Puranjana. With one friend, he uses one gate to go and enjoy a particular land, and with another friend, he uses the other gate to go to a different land. And then on top of all these 9 gates, which are to go out, there are two other blind alleys which are called Nirvak and Peshaskrit. So there are two gates which are enabling him to go and engage in activities. So these first 9 gates we saw are there for him to go to various lands for enjoyment. So he has different friends, as we saw, with each of these gates. And then there is two other gates which makes it a total of 11. The last two gates are for engaging in activity. So they lead him into blind alleys, not to any land, but to blind alleys. And there he goes and engages in various activities. So Narada continues. So this is how he lives. He's got this city, these gates, and he has friends to go with for each gate, and the position of the gate and the direction the gates face is all given. And with this he is enjoying in this city. And then inside the city he goes to the inner quarters called Antahpura, and there he gives way to infatuation and joy by being in the company of his wife. So this foolish king is given over to sense gratification, and when he is in the inner quarters, he is doing exactly what the queen does. So it says, when the queen drinks wine, he also drinks wine. When she is eating, he is eating. When she is eating crispy food, he is eating crispy food. So it's interesting how specifically crispy foods are normally tending to be unhealthy. And so when she eats crispy foods, he eats crispy food. When she drinks wine, he drinks wine. When she sings, he sings. She weeps, he weeps. She laughs, he laughs. She runs, he runs. She goes to bed, he goes to bed. She sits down, he's sitting down. So everything she does, it's very beautifully, poetically given here. Kvachit gayati gayantam, rudyatam rudati kvachit sadyantam hasyantam hasati, jalpayan manu jalpati, kvachit dhavati dhavyantam, tishtyan manu tishtati. So basically, the verses are also very beautiful. What it says is, every single thing she does, he is doing it exactly as it says here, like a monkey that imitates a person. So just as a monkey would imitate whatever a person does, his master does involuntarily, similarly he was helplessly and involuntarily imitating his wife. So she listens, he was listening. She's smelling, he was smelling. She touched, he was touching. If she is sorrowful, he was sorrowful. And if she is happy, he was happy. So essentially, he was involuntarily and totally helplessly imitating this wife of his in the inner quarters like a monkey would. So with this chapter ends in a very interesting place about this very mysterious king and his mysterious wife who has completely got him wrapped around her finger, as it were, and he is going outside the city with different friends for different enjoyments through the 9 gates, and then through 2 other gates for activities in blind alleys. And inside the city, in the inner quarters, he is like a puppet, like a monkey, completely identified with this queen and doing whatever she is doing, just imitating her and identifying totally with her. So, with this mysterious king and the mysterious queen and this city, uh, Narada stops this narration and he'll continue in the next chapter to see what happens to this king and who is his friend Avijnata, who has not been brought in so far, the unknowable friend, and what happens to this king and what this means to all of us. With this chapter ends. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.